CFM Radio Thursday edition.
Yes, that is right. It's not every week that we switch days on you, but when we do, it is certainly a special edition of CFM Radio Video Game Music and News. What is up, Vector?
What is up, Drix? And you are absolutely right. Video game music and news jam-packed with that today's edition with some big news, big shuffling around video game industry, lots of interesting headlines going on that have flown by, but we have saved some of the more interesting headlines of all of this crazy news for you today here on this wild Thursday.
Yep. As we do every week here, we like to consolidate, the hottest news while playing you the best video game tunes that we are allowed to play here on YouTube.
Yes, and we cannot forget the importance of playing the video games. So, and Drake, I gotta say, there's been a few projects I've wanted to get done. You're watching Pokemon Champions right now. I wanted to give some sort of guide for Pokemon Champions, people who want to get into it, people who might want to maneuver around the meta. You know what I mean? I've been slowly, steadily grinding up there, but you know what, Drix? I have to just admit it. I'm admitting it here on stream. I'm just playing too much Marathon.
Yeah, not a bad problem to have.
No, not at all. In fact, I might end up doing a how to catch up in Marathon guide here on CFM clusterfuckedmedia.com. That's fuktmedia.com. Because you know what? If that's the case and if that's what I'm playing, why not, right? I know what I'm doing. I figure every run, I always give the guy who shoots at me at least a little bit of pepper. If not killing the guy outright. So I'm pretty good now.
Yeah, you got to strike while the iron is hot, like Henry in Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Kingdom Come Deliverance, great. Still that game. If you guys haven't played that game, I just started playing that game. Jesus, that game is awesome.
Yeah, was recently discounted as part of Steam's Medieval Fest. So all of your favorite medieval titles, getting a little cheaper temporarily.
Yeah, and definitely some great sales on the PlayStation Network store as well. If they are dropping the price of I think the deluxe edition of Call of Duty down to $60. So if you're a Call of Duty head, I know people Call of Duty, but you know what? Every so often, people love to you just want to go down, pop some heads, right? Run around on what? One of these crazy urban maps. They all look beautiful, so.
Yeah, just go throw yourself a grenade the entire way across the map to get a kill by the enemy spawn.
Yeah, it's totally random, and you just get it.
Yeah.
You're like, damn, got him.
Of person shooters.
I love that. That's a great description. The Tony Hawk of first-person shooters.
Yeah, with or without jump jets, double jumps, and power slides.
Yeah, that just makes it even more Tony Hawk.
Yep.
And Drix, that's what I've been playing, but what have you been jumping in on?
Man, I am still enjoying the crap out of my PlayStation Premium subscription that, I initially got a 7-day free trial of when I bought Marathon, and I haven't played Marathon since, not even the latest patch, but I'm getting neck deep in Unicorn Overlord, still hacking up Xenos in Space Marine 2. And at some point, I think I'm going to dive into, we were talking about before the show, I should probably check out Returnal since it's on there.
Great game.
And also Ghost of Tsushima, I've still never played, so I need to tap into that. And of course, taking care of all my Tropicans in my island of Tropico 6, where I just got to the level where it's a pirate island. Nothing grows, so all of your industries, you have to steal all the materials with pirate coves, and it's a lot of fun.
That sounds
That's
awesome.
It's my go-to PC simulation, because when I'm on a PC lately, that's the kind of city building simulator that I think I should be doing with mouse and keyboard. And it's become my time hole. I'll start playing it and then come to 4 or 6 hours later.
Yeah,
and be where have I been? I set fast forward time in the game. I didn't know it did that in real life too.
Dude, it's crazy, like the dynamic of PC gaming. I don't find myself even playing a lot of FPS games on PC anymore. Like I play Marathon on PS5 almost exclusively, and like I have every so often, like I'll get shot in the back, right, and I'll be like, damn, I wish I could just fucking swing my arm around, right, just be like, boom, got your ass. But like I have to always come to and be like, dude, I can do that. I just need to up my sensitivity one notch. Like,
yeah, you gotta dial that bad in.
And it's crazy because like you would think that like FPS games, like those are like the original, like fuck, you need like mouse and keyboard for this shit, right? Those games, like,
yeah.
But now I think people, especially PC gamers, and especially since PC gaming has gotten bigger and bigger, I think that the Tropicos of the world are the games that are flourishing, because you really don't get those kinds of you get them on console, but those experiences don't translate onto console as elegantly, right?
No, how am I supposed to scroll through my resources and my spreadsheets to determine the course of my economy, you know?
Not just that, how are you supposed to do that quickly on a controller? You know what I mean? You can't play like Age of Empires on a controller, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Steam machine will have like a scroll wheel, you know, but
hey,
not yet.
You better hope so. If that thing is gonna come out, I mean, shit. Like, cause those are the real games that you're gonna want. Like,
yeah, if I'm gonna be playing Tropico on my living room big screen TV, I'm gonna need a scroll wheel, all right?
Yeah, seriously, or some kind of trackball. Like,
yeah, I don't know if PS5 touchpad will cut it.
It as someone who played Tropico on the PS4, I don't think it did.
Yeah, right.
I don't think it did. But you know what? Like, hey, we're talking a lot about PlayStation. Let's jump right in to our gaming news, because you know, Drix, we sure do
Video game news.
have a lot of gaming news. And since we're talking PlayStation, let's just start talking Marathon.
Oh yeah, and we're not talking about running for 24 kilometers either.
No, we are absolutely not. Funny enough, you know, and hilarious enough as it might be, or as it might sound, you can. There is a whole. I'm in a few marathon groups, right, on like social media, and it's funny to me because you'll get these guys who come in and they'll ask about like marathon running.
Yes, the physical act of running a marathon in a group about a video game.
Yeah, no, we have to inform them kindly. No, this is not it.
Wrong thread, buddy.
Yes, wrong thread. But this marathon, you would think that with all of the crazy press and negative, quote unquote, negative feedback it gets from players, or I shouldn't say players, because people who play it love it, but from the general chatter around around online gaming discourse, and even a lot of other YouTubers will tell you this, that Marathon is just doing terribly. It's doing awfully. But Drix, I gotta say, while Marathon may not be doing the greatest, right? It's absolutely not a perfect game. It is doing well, because we have it here from respawn.outlookindia.com. The headline is, quote, "How Bungie's Marathon beat Crimson Desert in the March 2026 US sales." That is, how Marathon beat Crimson Desert in March 2026 sales. And you know, Drix, that is a rather provocative title, right? It is one of those things that immediately garners scrutiny, I would say, because
keeping track of those numbers.
Yeah, because you hear it a lot. Oh man, Marathon just not doing great. Marathon not performing. And to be fair, there is a lot that Marathon has to live up to. I will not beat around the bush in that regard, where big budget, we talked about it a little bit on the show, big budget, not exactly a huge return on the numbers, and there's a lot that could be done, but as we are hearing here, quote, U.S. video game spending surges 12% as Nintendo Switch 2 drives hardware growth, while MLB The Show 26 and Bungie's Marathon dominate March 2026 domestic sales.
Wow. Yeah, no, I know a few dedicated The Show players as well.
And, you know, the thing, when we go into here, quote, according to Circana executive director and industry analyst Matt Piscatella, overall spending across software, hardware, and accessories saw a significant boost. Looking at... Sorry, this is loading up. My bad. Oh, and we went dark. There we go. According to... Looking at the top charts, sorry. MLB The Show 26 led the charge, followed by Capcom's Resident Evil, Requiem, and second, and WWE 2K26 taking third. Bungie's Marathon secured a highly impressive fourth-place finish, edging out the heavily anticipated Pokemon Pokopia, which landed in fifth. What makes Marathon's placement so remarkable is that these charts are ranked by dollar sales, not units sold. Launching at a budget-friendly $40, Marathon had to move significantly more copies to financially outpace the full-price releases like Crimson Desert at $70.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's beating out Pokopia too.
So here's the thing, though, right? Paul Tassi on his show said this. This is dollar sales, so
yeah,
and this is U.S. centric. And while that is a very, very, very good market to perform strongly in, you definitely love to see that high USD yield.
Yes.
We know from our reporting earlier this year that the market here in the USA is rather dedicated to A, what they're playing, and B, to games that are, let's say, pick up and play and easy to put down, right?
Yeah, you know, not a big time commitment per session, say.
Yeah, you know, you want to play people. So the top games, let's say besides your Robloxes and your besides your Roblox, because Fortnite's still up there. So Fortnite is there. What is it? EA Sports FC, they call it now. What was FIFA? The game formerly known as FIFA.
Yeah.
NBA and MLB, your sports games, your Call of Duties, those are the games that really crack the mindshare of the U.S. Gamer. So it is interesting to see that Pokemon Pokopia in the USA didn't quite get up as high as Marathon. But we also know that if this is the USA we're talking about, that's probably it, right, Drix?
Yeah, exactly. People, you know, they're putting in the time to run this proverbial marathon.
Yeah, and I don't think, and as we know from our own data, that once those U.S. dollar sales, the U.S. market is pretty much like spoken for, let's say, right? There's not a lot of growth, at least according to
Fortnite and Roblox.
Yeah, at least according to the Matthew Ball report that we were looking at earlier in the year, the major growth that you want to tap into is actually in the Southeast Asia region, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when you have this report where Crimson Desert maybe didn't sell as amazing as it did in the USA, but it still sold 4 million copies.
Yeah. At $40 pop, you know?
Well, Crimson Desert was 70, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So Marathon was 40, And even though Marathon outpaced it in outpaced Crimson Desert, which came in 15th in the U.S. sales, so it outpaced it in dollars. It clearly did not outpace Crimson Desert in, let's say, won, right?
Yeah.
Like it did not outpace Crimson Desert in regions that could see potential growth, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't push any boundaries, outside of the U.S.
Yeah, so Marathon Marathon got its U.S. audience, and the U.S. audience that stuck with it really love it. But when you're talking about the U.S., the sales of Marathon, that 1.5 milli, it's probably going to top out there for us in the United States.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we'll see if they make some kind of push abroad.
Yeah, and that's really what you want to. If you're a Marathon fan, that's really what you're going to want to be looking out for. You're going to want to be looking out for, let's say, stability updates for other regions. You're going to want to be looking out for sales of Marathon, like reduced prices of Marathon, and like, let's say, the China region. You know?
Yeah. Yep.
Like
that's how you grow your player base.
Yeah, that's what's going to move the needle. And we all know that if that's really the strategy to try to get the game, because Paul Tassi pointed it out, even though this game is number 4 in the US sales, it still does not hit those high numbers that you would expect. It hasn't gotten back to its peak of 80,000 players. It goes to it hovers around about 20 to 30,000 weekly, and about on peak hours it'll be like 35, and lower end hours it'll be like 15,000. And so that's a pretty healthy player base. But if that's the US player base, and this game is released everywhere globally, then those other regions we're seeing our demographic problem in action through Marathon. Those other regions, the ones that are potential growth or have been reported as potential growth vectors that we reported on earlier this year, that's what's stopping the game from getting its momentum.
Yeah. Wow, gotta reach out, reach farther, go deep.
Gotta go deep. So if it's not hitting in Southeast Asia, but it's hitting in the USA, you can't really, so that probably means that it's all about the microtransactions for your US audience, and it's all about acquisition for your abroad audience. Drix, that sounds like that's a tough uphill battle. Which one do you focus on?
Yeah, that is definitely a rock and a hard place.
So here's hoping that Marathon finds that footing. I love Marathon. I think that game deserves everybody's attention, honestly, because it's really, really one of the few extraction shooters that tries to give a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's a shame I haven't picked it back up in a while, but I will.
Hey, it's right. Hey, you know what? That's the best part about that game. You don't need to keep jumping in on it all the time. It'll be there for you.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be there after I turn off my, streaming subscription for PlayStation Premium.
But before we go to our first break, we will move on to another interesting news story.
Yeah, how about that Xbox?
Exactly, Drix. How about that Xbox, right?
Yeah, what even is or is not an Xbox?
Yeah, what is going on with Xbox? Because, I'll tell you what, I gotta say, outsider looking in, a whole lot's going on with Xbox.
Yeah, we're meeting a new boss over there and measuring how the same as the old boss she is.
And it doesn't sound like she's very much the same as the old boss at all, Drix.
Yeah, for the better.
Well, we'll see, right? That's the thing. You know what? We're just gonna read the letter, right? I'll just read the letter. Like,
yes.
I'm just going to read the letter because Asha Sharma, the new Xbox boss, replaced Phil Spencer. Her second in command, Matt Booty. They just today they released on news.xbox.com the Xbox Wire, if you will. This
Ooh.
We Are Xbox, I guess you could call it letter or message, because they say at the very tippy top, this message was just sent to Team Xbox employees globally.
Ah, okay. That's a big memo.
And it is, and I'm just going to read the intro because boy oh boy, Drix, does this go over a lot. So, dear team, quote, Xbox has always been different. We started with a simple idea. Games should bring people together through shared experiences. That led to the first Xbox in 2001, Xbox Live in 2002, and new ways to connect from friends list and achievements to parties and play across devices. Today, Xbox reaches over 500 million players around the world, with some of the most important franchises in entertainment. From the beginning, Xbox was built by people willing to try things that others wouldn't. We placed a consumer bet inside an enterprise company because we believed gaming would define the living room, and we were at risk of missing it. That spirit has carried us through the last 25 years, and it is required to carry us forward. Now, I won't read into the next one, but the very next section starts with we have work to do, and then right underneath that, players are frustrated.
Yeah, that says a lot about the state of the box.
And they go on to say things such as they're going to execute their 4-point plan for their 4-point priority plan for moving for their brand, I guess, moving forward: hardware, content, experience, and services. And they go through an entire list of each one and what each one means to them. Interestingly, when you look at services, here they are, quote, fortify Game Pass with clear differentiation and sustainable economics. Quote, return the business to durable growth with strong cost discipline. Quote, make cloud play feel native, fast, and reliable across TVs and low-cost devices. Quote, use M&A to accelerate growth where organic paths are too slow. So, Drix, when you look at these other pillars, and then you compare them to services, this is the most customer forward. But if you look at content, one of the interesting discussions, I guess, points in the content pillar is, quote, expand into China, emerging markets, and mobile-first audiences.
Oh boy. That sounds pretty new.
So, Xbox is clear. Asha Sharma, in her first 60 days. Here, let's just give her the report card, right? In her first 60 days, she has lowered the cost of Game Pass. And even though you don't get Call of Duty anymore, $22 a month is way better than $30 a month. She's also discussing more and more ways to come at the Game Pass model, so that's a positive. The second one, changing, I guess, the marketing, right? This is an Xbox, everything is an Xbox, nothing is an Xbox, my cat is an Xbox, my dog is an Xbox, I don't know what is an Xbox anymore. Asha Sharma says, fuck that, an Xbox is an Xbox, right?
It is a gaming console.
Look at it.
Yep, it is a piece of hardware for playing video games.
And she has completely tried to flip around the image internally as well. We've had leaked memos come out, and listen, I will say this. When you have someone like Asha Sharma, we discussed where she comes from on the show. She comes from big time business. She comes from big marketing. She was what, Instacart, right? Before this, like, she put those guys on the map. Like,
yeah, other green map.
Right. She can turn around a brand image. And if that's what she's being hired to do, and that's all she's being hired to do, then we should be cognizant of these things like a leaked, quote unquote, leaked memos. You know, these new press releases of her saying, "Hey, we gotta like change these things. We gotta be player first." All these kinds of things, because all of those things, Drix, they just sound like great marketing to me.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's all about the spin you put on it, right?
Well, and I think that I agree, and I think that moving forward, Game Pass is going to be the big indicator. You know, because if nothing new, or if nothing new comes to Game Pass, and Game Pass kind of just languishes, and like maybe like you get like one new first party game every like what, 8 months. Like that's
quarterly here.
Yeah, you know, it's still not gonna be a big bang for your buck, especially with no Call of Duty.
Yeah, I'm not gonna leave my subscription on all year.
Yeah. So we're gonna see how Game Pass goes. Really checking it, really feels like we're putting Asha Sharma under a microscope, but she's saying a lot of the right things.
Yeah, I'm a fan so far. You know, not a bad first 60 days in her new chair. So, you know, gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
Indeed. And before we get into our new releases for the week, Drix, what are we jamming out to?
This is from Melty Blood, a song called Rhythmical Bustle.
Love Melty Blood, crazy fighting game, rhythmical bustle.
Media.
We'll be back.
CFM Radio.
CFM Radio, we are back.
That was a funky little piece of soul music from The Sims, the first Sims for the PC.
Haha.
That, believe it or not, was called Yeah, Yeah, Yo.
Yeah, yeah, yo. You know, The Sims, how the mighty have fallen, right, Drix?
Yeah, a little bit. Or how the mighty have been modded to shit.
Yeah, modded to ever-loving shit. Monetized to shit. Like,
Yeah.
but you know what,
People
Drix?
get all kinds of free work on The Sims.
And unfortunately, all the stuff that you need to pay for. You want pets? Fucking $5. You want Star Wars?
Yeah.
Fucking $5. You want sportswear? $5. Like, Jesus.
Yes, how EA has fallen.
Yeah. Well, how EA can EA, right?
Yep, the most.
But listen, that's not what you need to spend your money on. You gotta spend your money on these new releases.
Yeah, and as always, we got quite a diverse little crowd of games coming out this week. Something for everybody, of
Yeah.
course, all over the spectrum.
Every week, some great new releases. And before we jump into this, make sure if you like what you're hearing, give us a like. If you want to get anything, any kind of request for any kind of song, drop it down in the comments or the chat below. If you love us, if you hate us, if you want to say anything, go to contact@clusterfuckedmedia.com. That's FUKT media.com. Just drop us an email. We read them.
Oh yeah.
But on to new releases. And first up is Snap and Grab.
Oh yeah. It's getting a little, neon retro up in here with
Oh,
this new release, but don't forget to take some pictures along the way.
From the Steam page, quote, do crimes using only your camera and your crew in Snap and Grab. Any photo you take could be the key to a cool crime success. Travel to exotic sandbox locations, photograph treasures, reveal threats, then combine your photos in unique ways to create a rad heist plan.
Yeah, it's almost like Pokemon Snap meets Grand Theft Auto up in here.
Haha. And Snap and Grab releases exclusively for PC via Steam tomorrow, April 24th, 2026. Drix, that's a Friday.
Yeah, you can plan your heist for the weekend.
Make sure that if it's one game that steals your weekend away, it's Snap and Grab. Because you know what? This looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the hook here. It's who doesn't like games not just with photo modes, but where taking pictures is like the centerpiece of the game.
Right? Like you said, Pokemon Snap on steroids.
Yep, on stealing.
Next up, we have Sudden Strike 5. Drix, there's 5 of these.
Yeah, so they have to be good, and this one's gonna be for you real-time strategy fans out there trying to lead armies of tanks and soldiers and the like.
And suddenly strike these fools. From the Steam page, quote, Sudden Strike 5 delivers real-time tactics in epic World War II battles. A host of tactical options and more than 300 playable units opens up multiple approaches to reach your objectives in a 25-mission campaign on historical battles in Europe and North Africa.
Yeah, love a good period piece. If you're gonna fight in a war, why not World War II?
Right. Kill them Nazis.
Haha.
And Sudden Strike 5 is out now for PlayStation 5, PC, and Xbox Series consoles. You can play this right now, Drix.
Yeah, it is a hot one. Just dropped today like D-Day.
And make sure, but like we were talking about earlier, it's one of those strategy games, so you might want to make sure you've got a little bit of maneuverability, like on a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, exactly. Not sure how this one would play on console.
And finally, Drix, the last one, the last game we are going to talk about today is an odd one. This is Titanium Court.
Yeah, you got pixel art, you got some kind of puzzling going on here. You know, it's a nice little genre crossover mashup, right?
Indeed, and from the Steam page, quote, "Welcome to Titanium Court, table for one. You have a reservation, I assume? You don't? Ah, I see. Just minding your own business before stumbling into a realm of magic and fairies, were you? Not to worry, happens all the time. Tell you what, why don't I see if we can squeeze you in somewhere while you become acquainted with the many amenities offered by the court. Amenities such as puzzling battles, puzzling narratives, diverse and fulfilling career options, and a vast collection of fine art to, whoa. Ah yes, the giant mouse."
This one's looking like it's gonna get a little Earthbound weird.
Yeah,
Take it to some places, right?
that is
It's
the Steam
giving
page.
Undertale puzzle.
Yeah, you know, Titanium Court, this is one of those ones where I had no idea what this was, and then I took a look at it. Like, because when you look at this, when you look at the description, the tags on Steam, the tags are surreal, funny, match 3, and tower defense.
Yeah, those are not things that you see together often, so it's gonna take you to some places. You're gonna enter another alternate pixel art dimension with this one.
Yeah, definitely looking like that from the, not only the description, but from what I'm seeing here on the screen, it's looking wild. So, yeah, this is Titanium Court. It's out now.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be wacky. It's probably gonna be a good time.
Yeah, definitely a good time. Definitely one of those surrealist type games, right?
Yeah, you gotta love those. You know, show me something I can't imagine.
It has a demo available right now, so if you want to try it before you buy it, you can do so.
Yep, the first hit is free.
And with that, Drix, I do believe we're going to jump right into some more news, because like I said, we are jam-packed.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of stuff happening in our beloved art form. Let's get into it.
Yes, and so we've got an interesting little tidbit here from, we've got, what is this? Gamesbeat.com. They caught up with one Shuhei Yoshida, who they got a good interview with, and for his own health, I guess, and for his own demeanor, when GamesBeat asked, "How are you enjoying yourself?" Shuhei Yoshida himself says, "Everybody I meet says I look relaxed and happy. Now I don't have to give pre-approval. Now that I don't have to get pre-approval from PR departments for interviews."
Haha, yeah. A weight has definitely been lifted off of Yoshida's shoulders.
Yeah, Shuhei Yoshida, if you don't remember Shuhei Yoshida, he's probably involved in one of your favorite games from the PS2 era, and no one will ever forget the epic own that was the PS4 How to Share Your Games video.
Haha, yeah.
And he was the guy sharing the disc.
Sweet. Yeah, you gotta love a guy like that. Says here he worked on Gran Turismo, Legend of Dragoon, Ape Escape, Crash Bandicoot, Crash Team Racing, Spyro 2, God of War. So he is a PlayStation guy,
Yeah.
true and true.
He was Ken Kudaragi's right-hand man. He says so right here in this interview.
Wow, yeah. He has made some moves and been in the industry a long time. So definitely a cool personality to get into an interview with.
And listen, when push comes to shove, I want to give, when it comes to the PlayStation part, I do want to touch on that before we jump into the quote-unquote meat of this juicy interview, because this question stuck out. Quote, Gamesby, it must have been a tough transition from PS2 to PS3. A lot of organization changed. Yoshida, right. Ken was removed. Kaz Hirai was moved from the US to Japan, but that helped me to many things were happening at the time. Kaz took over for Ken. We built our global group of game developers, Worldwide Studio. Phil Harrison was the first president. He was the head of game development in Europe, and I was the head in the United States. When we merged to create Worldwide Studios, he became president, and we were working together, but he left to become the president of Atari, and Kaz asked me to succeed him. At the same time, I would move back from the US to Japan to work with the hardware team. Kaz announced that for the future of PlayStation up until PS3, it was a hardware engineer's dream machine. Going forward, the hardware team would have to work with the game teams to design the next PlayStation. I had been working with Mark Cerny on the game team projects, the Naughty Dog and Insomniac projects, and I knew that Mark was a hardware genius as well. I helped him connect with a hardware person, Masa Chitani, who at the time was CTO. You might have read his book. I brought him into Ken's group. I helped Masa sign a contract with Mark to become the system architect for the PS Vita and the PS4. That's how he started working on the PlayStation hardware. First thing we did with Mark and the game studios help, the design of the PS Vita was already ongoing, but they evaluated and asked Masa and the hardware team to change the SoC. It was too weak. They agreed to upgrade the system. That was the start of the relationship between the hardware group and the studio group. The reason Kaz asked me to move back to Japan was so that I could work closely with the hardware group. I joined every hardware discussion on the Vita and the PS4. I connected hardware team with the key studio people to discuss different issues. If it was the controller, I connected them with the game designers. If it was the system thing, they talked to the lead programmers. One thing that made me very happy about the collaboration, the PS4 had the share button, right? That idea came from Santa Monica Studios. One of the game designers put together a presentation about how game streaming on YouTube and Twitch was becoming popular. Why not make a dedicated button on the controller so anyone could be a YouTuber? We presented that to the hardware team and they loved it. They moved one button and made it the share button. I was so proud when that happened. So I picked that essentially to underline and emphasize what we're going to go into next, and how
clearly some sound decisions.
And how truly crazy that the quote unquote firing was, right? Because Yoshida right here, you can tell. No, Drix was saying earlier, Gran Turismo, God of War, right? But
these consoles would not have been the same without this man.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where if this guy not just wouldn't be the same without this man, he was like a hardware guy, right?
Yeah, and also bridging the collaboration between the console folk over at Sony and the actual developers making the games for the hardware. I mean, you'd think they would talk a lot to some degree, but it takes people like Yoshida to connect all these dots
to get them all there. And like I said, so in how he left was very strange. And here it is, quote, Gamesby, why did you decide to retire? Yoshida, quote, well, I haven't retired. I left the company. Jim Ryan was the last leader of our generation. Ken Kutaragi, Kaz Hirai, Andrew House, Sean Layden, myself, we were all the same group from the PS1 days. We handed down to the next generation of management, like Hideaki Nishino and Herman Holst. For the last 5 years, my responsibility was to promote indie games inside and outside of PlayStation. I wanted to communicate, especially to new people joining PlayStation, how important it is to support indie games. They create the future. Externally, I was communicating to indie developers and publishers that we wanted to make things better for them. Bit by bit, we've been able to improve our systems, our store functions, our communication. A few years back, one of the reasons I got the job from Jim, we'd been criticized by the indie community. They said that PlayStation doesn't care about indies. You don't hear that kind of criticism anymore. Last year, we had lots of anecdotes from our indie partnerships that their new games were selling better on PlayStation than on any other platform. That's amazing. Some games sold better on PlayStation than on PC. When I started that work 5 years ago, our indie partners would say that when they released their games multi-platform, the Switch version would sell 3 to 5 times more than PlayStation. Bit by bit, that gap was narrowed. We have a strong team inside the company supporting indies. When I got the job, I told Jim that I didn't want to create a department. There were enough verticals in that company. Coordinating a department is hard already. I didn't want to create another vertical. I worked through the existing organization. My personal goal when I started the indie job was to make my position obsolete. The company would be doing so well that there was no need for someone like me to tell everybody this was important. I feel we've achieved that pretty well. There's still a lot we can do and we're working on it. You had the combination of Jim leaving and Nishino and Herman stepping up, and I felt good about the state of support of our indies. I decided to leave. Moving from first party to indies, well, I had no choice. When Jim asked me to do the indie job, the choice was to do that or leave the company. But I felt very strongly about the state of PlayStation and indies. I really wanted to do this. I believed I could do something unique for that purpose. That was the bigger chance for me personally, moving from first party to indies, than leaving the company this year. I'm very lucky that the indie community, the publishers and developers I work closely with, they believe that they could use my help. I became an advisor for some of these companies. I'm continuing to work with some of the indie publishers and developers I respect. The transition out of Sony to become an independent advisor is less of a change than moving out of first party.
Wow.
So,
yeah, like we get these, people leaving bigger companies after a long time, and boy, do you got some hot new talent to consult with for these indie games now, right?
Yeah, and like I said, he said the quiet part out loud right there, right? He either needed to do this or leave the company.
Yeah, that's an ultimatum right there.
Yeah, so it again, kind of one of those things where, and when going from the first part, he says it in the nicest way possible, right? But going from being one of the PS1 guys and then essentially being moved to indies and then saying, hey, we need to be doing this so good that I don't even need to be here.
Yes, I'm going to show you how to ride this indie bike.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of people will say like, oh man, like he quote unquote he was fired. He absolutely did sound like he was fired, but let's be real. He sounded like he wanted to get the hell out of there,
Yeah, and again, that sigh of relief he mentioned from not having the suits breathing down his neck for doing an interview and stuff,
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm getting tired just hearing about him keeping all of these teams on the same page,
So it sounds like at the end of the day, even though he was fired, right? And he definitely got, let's say, a shorter end of the stick, right? As far as someone of his pedigree, someone who helped get your favorite PlayStation franchises up off the ground, right?
Invented the share button.
Invented the share button, like,
like, how you gonna lose something like that?
Yeah, it sounded like for all the time that he wanted to stay there and all the ambition that he might have had, he was a very constrained guy, and he was, like you said, Drix, breathing a sigh of relief that now he could actually just talk to people.
Yeah, wow. No more non-disclosures for you. You can contract away and do the work you want for the people you want to work
Drix,
with.
I imagine, you said it yourself. This guy invented the share button, and he probably couldn't even say anything. He probably couldn't say that at all.
Yeah, no way, Sony would let him just go around like, I'm the share button guy.
Yeah, no way, dude. No fucking way. Like that is not. So the fact that we're getting all this now, yeah, it sucks that he got fired. Yeah, it sucks that, Jim Ryan put him in the indie position, to essentially ripped him away from hardware, took the guy that bridged hardware and game development away from it. But it seemed like he really wanted to, like he says it right here, I don't want to make a new department. I want to work from within to the point where I'm not needed anymore.
Nice. Yeah, kind of a quiet severance there. Or like there's that Japanese tradition where people who are like too old or not useful enough, they just give them a desk by the window, It seems like they were kind of giving him that treatment.
Yeah, and
despite
he seemed down with it, right? He seemed like he was okay with, he wanted something like that. And I mean, he left the company and he's still working with indies, and we'll see exactly what that means in the future, right? But if this is just one of those things where he's like doing some consulting, then I mean, dude, he's just gonna be the guy talking to people, be like, hey, can you get this indie game onto PlayStation? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, who knows? Maybe those old contacts with Sony and PlayStation might come in handy at some point later. He might know a hardware guy who he can introduce to a game developer at some point and just be a part of the overall network.
Exactly. And with that, we're going to move into our final news story of the night. And even though it's not in this game that we reviewed last week, Devil Jam, we've reported it here on CFM Radio, and now it seems like it is getting into the wider discussion, because here from thegamer.com, the headline is, quote, almost every big studio is using generative AI in its game development, it's claimed.
Ooh, yeah, it's an ongoing conversation about this, right? Can't go anywhere without hearing about Claude or ChatGPT or OpenAI doing whatever it is they're doing. Data centers in your neighborhood.
And this whole discussion, right? It got brought up by a Blue Sky discussion from a Google executive and journalist, Jason Schreier. The Google exec on Blue Sky says, quote, many of our favorite games were made using its AI services, with Jason Schreier following up to say, quote, I mean, it's also true that almost every big studio is using Gen AI tools, particularly Claude, right now.
Just vibe coding away.
We don't. So here's the thing, Drix, and so this is the crux of this entire article. Is this Jason Schreier, quote unquote, confirmation? First of all, it's not an article, right? It's not a Bloomberg article, so we don't really know what's going on when he says that. Second of all, this is nothing new. We were here on CFM Radio. We were reporting Steam Next Fest. And we were the GDC, and we were, both of these events had the temperature taken of Gamedev and the use of AI, generative AI, large language models in Gamedev.
Yeah, not just to make your enemies smarter, but plenty of uses, right?
Plenty of uses, and Drix, we saw it in our one of our previous episodes, and we'll end the show with this one, is that this whole thing of generative AI, large language models in AI, in your games, in the game dev, there's a lot of angles that this can come from, right? This can come from the where winds meet angle, where the literal LLM is the NPC,
Yeah, you can tell them whatever you want, and they'll say whatever they want.
They'll say whatever the hell you want. Hey, you giving me a puzzle? Hey, how about you just tell me the answer, right?
How about I tell you that I finished the quest, and you believe me?
And you believe me. And it's like, oh, shit, here you go.
Well, here's your reward.
Yeah.
Have fun.
So there's that. There's also the ideation, I guess. Like you said, there's vibe coding. But there's also what more one of the developers was saying that honestly We just use the LLM as sort of like a quick tool to see if something that we're doing matches up with the design document and to keep the design document up to date.
You know, it's just a secretary that's in charge of our file cabinets.
Essentially. So there's a lot of ways. So when you see these, I hate to use this word, but when you see these sensationalist headlines and
Yeah.
these vague statements of, oh my God, AI is in your game dev, AI is in your games. There's a lot of ways that this could go, and unless this is like full Crimson Desert AI asset in the full game type shit.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a huge, you know, video games are a software-based industry. It is.
Why not use software to improve your software,
It's
right?
it's only, you know, if we're gonna do middleware stuff, like auto-generating trees for the last 10 years, then
Yeah.
there is a way that we can utilize these LLMs that aren't like ideating, they're not taking people's jobs, right?
Yeah, it's okay if the xenomorph learns where you like to hide in
Right.
the alien game, you know, but what we really don't want is, you know, people laying off actual artists. you know?
And then getting AI slop art in the game instead of something that's handcrafted, right?
Yeah, that's definitely sacrificing overall quality for a cheap fix and a shortcut, you know,
Right.
to your profit margin.
So yeah, you're gonna hear a lot, and you're gonna hear a lot about that. Like I said, or you know.
So yeah, ask the question when you hear about AI being used in video
Yeah.
games. Be like, but for what though?
For what? How was this used in the game? Because if you're,
Like
because
I've been using AI in stealth games for decades now, you know?
yeah, right. And if this game was just, hey, it made the NPC able to find you quicker, or
Yeah.
or the game developers used it, like we were saying, as like an advanced note-taking tool, so they could put correspondence and game design ideas on paper quicker than they normally would
Yeah.
be able to.
Hey Claude, check for bugs, will ya?
Yeah, hey, yeah, right, exactly. Let's do a little bit of QA, right? Like,
Yep.
so there's a lot of different ways, and again, you're gonna hear it a lot. You're gonna hear this X studio is using Claude, is using ChatGPT, is using anything like that. The more important question is, how are they using that?
Yeah, exactly. Don't go firing people and replacing them with clankers.
And don't go hating on studios just because they said they used AI. It's one of those things where, like, you know, Arc Raiders, fucking A. They came out and they said, yeah, actually, we're gonna redo all of our shitty AI voice work because hiring real people just sounds better.
Yeah, that's actually okay.
Yeah. So if
Here's
that's
some
the case,
holder audio. We can release the game sooner.
right? If that's the case, whatever, because you're not taking the job away from the person. You're still getting people in there and doing the job.
Yep.
So, so as long as that is the use of AI in gaming, that'll be okay. But the second that you start seeing or hearing this, we're using AI to create a skin, we're using AI for variable pricing, or you're using AI like these horrible Call of Duty fucking these like battle tags that are clearly AI art. You're like, God, what is this? Like, whenever you see that shit, hate on that. But if it's just AI and you just see AI in the game, don't froth at the mouth.
Yeah. You don't need your, you know, daily cortisol dose from these headlines
Yeah.
without doing a little bit of your own research.
Exactly. And that is a good way to end the show. Drix, I do believe that it is time to play some more games. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this Thursday edition, jam-packed full of news of CFM Radio.
Yep, we hope you are leaving both educated and entertained, maybe with a few dance moves in between.
Exactly. And I do believe you guys should check out one of these new releases. You know, Snap and Grab looks great. We've got,
Yep.
you know, for my money, I think I might check out Titanium Court. So, like,
Yeah, Price is right. That is absolutely going in the Steam library.
yeah, absolutely. All right, though, everybody. Thank you for listening to us. Again, if you like us, give us a like. If you hate us, tell us why at contact@clusterfuckedmedia.com. That is fuktmedia.com. Or just leave us a comment. And hey, if you have a song that you want us to play, leave it in the comments.
Yes, drop them, drop those requests, and I will play you the tunes.
And we will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Good night.